Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to tackle something I know you've been curious about, programmer salaries around the world. You're thinking about maybe getting into programming.
hmm
And honestly, some of some of the findings from this global salary survey we're looking at were pretty surprising, even to me. And I follow this stuff pretty closely.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting about this data. It's not just about the numbers themselves,
Right.
but what they reveal about how the tech industry is evolving on like a global scale.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we're going to explore what these numbers actually mean for you as you're considering this career path.
absolutely.
And just give it a little taste, we're talking a huge range in salaries, from like Silicon Valley's crazy figures
Yeah.
to the rapidly growing tech hubs in Asia.
Yeah, we'll also be diving into how specialization plays a role.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, if you're interested in AI, certain subfields like machine learning are attracting top dollar right now.
That reminds me, AI specialists aren't just getting those big base salaries, right?
Right.
They're also often getting incredible bonuses and stock options.
Exactly.
It's not just about the base pay.
Yeah.
There's a whole, ecosystem of compensation to unpack.
Absolutely. We'll be exploring how those extras, like stock options, can really add up, especially in startups.
Right.
And don't forget those perks.
Oh, yeah, the vertical.
Free food, all that good stuff.
Okay. Before we get lost in nap pods and free gourmet lunches,
Uh-huh.
let's back up and talk about the fundamentals. There are a lot of factors that affect a programmer's salary,
hmm
and this survey data really brings that to light. Location, obviously,
Yeah.
plays a huge role,
Huge.
but it's not just about where the jobs are.
Right.
It's also about the cost of living in those cities.
Absolutely. For instance, the survey showed that while San Francisco might boast those impressive six-figure salaries,
Right.
a similar role in Austin could actually leave you with more disposable income
Really.
because of the lower cost of living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me think about something I always tell my friends, right?
hmm
It's not about the biggest paycheck.
hmm
It's about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where your salary allows you to live the lifestyle you want.
Precisely.
Right. You can make a ton of money, but if
Mhm.
you're miserable, what's the point?
Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of different lifestyles, right? While North America tends to dominate the conversation,
Yeah.
Europe offers a different perspective.
Okay. Well, you've mentioned wanting good work-life balance.
Oh, yeah.
So let's explore what Europe has to offer. The data highlights cities like London, Berlin, and Amsterdam,
hmm
each with its own kind of unique salary range and pace of life.
Yeah, what's interesting about Europe is that many countries have strong worker protections,
Oh, okay.
and they really prioritize vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the base salary might be a little bit lower compared to a similar role in the US,
Okay.
the overall quality of life could be much higher.
I see. It's all about what you value,
Exactly.
not just about the number.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing a theme here, right? Location, lifestyle, and knowing what's important to you are all key.
Absolutely.
Now, while we're on the topic of different regions, let's shift our focus to the dynamic tech landscape of Asia. I've been hearing so much about cities like Tokyo, Bangalore, and Singapore all becoming these major tech hubs.
And the salary data reflects that. For instance, Bangalore is becoming a huge outsourcing center, attracting global companies and offering competitive salaries, especially for programmers with in-demand skills.
That's interesting. But I did notice that some salaries in Asia are still significantly lower than, say, those in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and that's where understanding the bigger picture is important.
Okay.
You see, these salary differences kind of reflect the different stages of economic development in those Asian countries.
Mm-hmm.
While some are rapidly catching up to Western salaries, others are still kind of on that journey.
So it's a dynamic situation that's constantly changing,
Right.
which honestly is what makes it so interesting.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that Asia isn't just one big thing, right?
Right.
Each country, each city even, has its own unique tech ecosystem. And that's reflected in the salary data.
Okay, all this talk about regions and base salaries has me thinking, what about all the other stuff that comes with a programming job? Like, we briefly talked about stock options and perks,
Right.
but this survey revealed that these extras can make a huge difference in your total compensation.
You're absolutely right. And it's something that someone just starting out, like yourself, should really pay attention to.
Okay.
So let's say you're considering a startup
Mm-hmm.
versus a big tech giant.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
While the startup might not offer the same base salary,
Okay.
the stock options could be worth a fortune
Oh,
if the
wow.
company takes off.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? To get in on the ground floor of the next Google or Amazon.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's dive into some specific examples of these perks.
Okay.
Free meals, nap pods. I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true.
Haha. Yeah, those are definitely the flashy ones you hear about a lot. But
Right.
what I find really valuable, especially as you're starting out, are things like really good health insurance, professional development budgets,
Oh,
and even things like transportation allowances. These might not be as exciting to talk about,
right.
but they can really impact your overall financial well-being.
And speaking of shaking things up, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Remote work.
Yeah.
This has completely transformed how companies think about hiring and compensation.
Oh, absolutely. It's fascinating to see how remote work is opening up so many possibilities, especially for programmers.
Hmm.
It allows companies to hire globally, potentially offer salaries that are higher than local market rates, but still lower than what they'd pay in their own country.
So that's where the idea of geographic arbitrage comes in.
Exactly.
Um, Let me see if I understand this correctly. So a programmer living in a country with a lower cost of living could potentially earn a higher salary working remotely for a company, say, in Silicon Valley.
You got it. And it's a win-win in many cases, right? The company gets top talent at a more affordable rate,
Hmm.
and the programmer gets paid more than they might locally.
I see, I see.
Of course, some companies adjust salaries based on location, which can be a downside for
Right.
those moving from like a high cost to a low cost area.
Right, right.
But overall, remote work has created a much more dynamic and globalized job market.
Okay. I was trying to see how all these pieces fit together. Location, cost of living, base salary, those extra perks, remote work.
Hmm.
It's not as simple as just looking at one number on a salary survey, is it?
Exactly. And that's what makes this such a fascinating topic to explore. We're not just looking at numbers.
Yeah.
We're looking at the stories behind those numbers and what they tell us about the changing landscape of the tech industry and the opportunities that are out there.
And what that means for someone like you
Exactly.
who's thinking about getting into the field.
Exact.
Yeah. Okay, that's a great overview. So I think maybe we can dive into some more specifics about these different regions in the next part.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. All right, we'll be back in a bit.
See you then. It really is a global puzzle, isn't it? And, one of the pieces we haven't really explored yet is the future.
Mm-hmm.
What trends are on the horizon? What could affect your earning potential down the line?
Oh, that's a good point. The tech world moves so fast.
It does.
Like what's hot today could be old news tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically about those emerging fields like quantum computing,
Or-
AI.
Yeah.
It seems like those are about to just explode.
Absolutely. Those who specialize in those cutting-edge fields will likely be in very high demand,
Yeah.
and their salaries will definitely reflect that. Think of it like the early days of the internet.
Okay.
Those with the right skills at the right time, they were able to command top dollar.
So it's not just about like learning to code.
Right.
It's about like anticipating where the industry is headed
Exactly.
and then developing those skills that are going to be in demand.
Precisely. And it's not just about hard skills either.
Oh.
What I find really interesting is that soft skills are becoming increasingly valuable even in a technical field like programming.
Oh, you mean things like communication and teamwork?
Mm.
I wouldn't have thought those would be top priorities for a programmer.
Well, the industry is realizing that it's not just about writing code in isolation anymore.
Okay.
You need to be able to explain your work clearly,
Right.
collaborate effectively with others, think critically about the impact of your code.
So someone who's like a coding genius,
Yeah.
but can't communicate their ideas or work well in a team,
Yeah.
they might actually be at a disadvantage.
Exactly. Imagine building the most amazing software in the world, right?
Yeah.
But not being able to explain how it works or why it's valuable, it might never even get used.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's like writing a brilliant book that no one can understand.
Exactly.
Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I want to kind of circle back to something from the salary survey. You mentioned earlier how salaries can vary even within the same country, right?
Yes, and that's really crucial to remember when you're comparing locations.
Okay.
Take Australia, for example. The survey showed that Sydney and Melbourne have these thriving tech scenes with pretty competitive salaries.
Right.
But the cost of living in those cities can be really high.
So it's back to that balancing act we were talking about,
Yeah.
weighing the salary against the lifestyle you want.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, do I want to be in the heart of the action? surrounded by the latest tech and the brightest minds,
Mm.
even if it means paying a premium for that lifestyle?
Right.
Or am I more drawn to a city with a lower cost of living where I could have more disposable income and maybe a more relaxed pace of life?
It's almost like choosing your own adventure. Each
Yeah.
path with its own kind of rewards and challenges.
Precisely. And that's what makes this journey so exciting. There's no one right answer. It's all about figuring out what's important to you
Mm.
and finding that path that aligns with your goals, and your values.
Okay, so let's zoom in for a minute
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
With the world becoming increasingly tech-driven,
Mm-hmm.
is programming still a good career choice?
In my opinion, absolutely.
Okay.
If anything, the demand for skilled programmers is only going to increase.
Yeah.
Every industry is becoming reliant on software,
Right.
healthcare, finance, transportation.
Right.
Someone needs to build and maintain that software.
So when it comes to job security, programming's looking pretty solid.
Very solid. And it's not just about job security.
Right.
It's also a field with incredible potential for growth and innovation. You could be working on projects that change the world.
Oh,
That makes a real difference.
okay. That's pretty inspiring.
Right.
But I imagine it's also like a competitive field.
Right. Oh, it is. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people vying for those top programming jobs.
So it's not enough to just learn one programming language and call it a day.
Yeah.
You need to be constantly upskilling, keeping up with the latest trends.
Yes, exactly.
And maybe even specializing in a niche area.
Precisely. The tech world is constantly evolving.
Right.
So you need to be comfortable with change, adaptable,
Hmm.
embrace lifelong learning, stay curious.
Right.
Don't be afraid to kind of step outside your comfort zone.
That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Speaking of learning, there's always that debate about coding boot camps versus traditional computer science degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts on which path is better?
Oh, it's a complex issue, honestly. There's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
Coding boot camps can be fantastic for those who want to get into the field quickly
Okay.
and focus on those practical skills. They're often more affordable and time efficient than a traditional degree.
But they might not offer the same depth of theoretical knowledge that you'd get with a computer science degree.
That's true. A computer science degree does give you a really strong foundation in algorithms, data structures, software engineering principles. Those can be valuable for certain roles and career paths.
So it sounds like it really depends on like the individual's goals and learning style.
Exactly. Some people thrive in a more structured academic environment,
Mm-hmm.
while others prefer a hands-on, project-based approach. It's about finding what suits your needs
Right.
and aspirations.
And let's not forget, like many companies value experience over formal education.
Absolutely.
If you can build a strong portfolio of projects, that can speak volumes, regardless of whether you have a degree or a boot camp certificate.
Absolutely. In the end, it's all about demonstrating your abilities and proving that you can deliver results.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap for our listener.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Programmer salaries are incredibly varied,
Mhm.
right? Influenced by location, experience, skills, and a whole host of other factors.
Mhm.
Location is huge, not just in terms of salary, but also cost of living and lifestyle.
Yeah, and we've seen how the rise of remote work is creating new opportunities and challenges for programmers,
Right.
allowing them to potentially work for companies around the world without relocating.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
It is.
We also talked about the importance of continuous learning and specialization, especially as those emerging technologies like AI and quantum computing gain momentum.
And perhaps most importantly, we discussed how a fulfilling career goes beyond just a big paycheck.
Right.
It's about finding a role where you can use your skills to make a positive impact, contribute to something meaningful.
Okay, so our listener is taking all this in. They're seeing those salary figures,
Yeah.
hearing about all these exciting opportunities, but they might also be feeling a little overwhelmed. What advice would you give them as they navigate this path?
First and foremost, don't be intimidated
Right.
by the sheer volume of information that's out there.
Yeah, it can be a lot.
Take it one step at a time.
Okay.
Start by exploring different programming languages.
Okay.
See what sparks your interest.
Mm-hmm.
Python's a great choice for beginners.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's relatively easy to learn, and it has a wide range of applications.
And there are so many free online resources
There are.
for learning Python, like Codecademy, Khan Academy.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend a fortune to get started.
Exactly. Once you have a basic understanding of the language,
Mm-hmm.
start building some small projects.
Oh, okay.
That's where the real learning happens.
So like what? What kind of project?
You could build a simple website,
Yeah.
a game,
Mm-hmm.
even just a tool to automate a task you do regularly.
Right.
And don't be afraid to share your work with others,
Okay.
even if it's not perfect. Get feedback, learn from your mistakes, iterate.
That's how you grow as a programmer.
Exactly. The more you practice, the better you'll become.
Makes sense.
And don't underestimate the power of networking.
Oh, yeah.
Go to meetups, join those online communities, connect with other programmers. You'll learn so much from their experiences
Right.
and gain valuable insights into the industry.
Okay, so our listeners putting in the work,
Mm-hmm.
learning those skills,
Yeah.
building their portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
What about the actual job search process?
Oh, that's a good question.
Any tips for standing out, in such a crowded field?
Well, first and foremost, make sure your resume and online profiles are up to date
Okay.
and showcase your skills and experience effectively.
Like your LinkedIn profile and stuff.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to tailor your resume and cover letter to each specific job.
Oh, okay, that's a good tip.
Highlight the skills and experiences that are most relevant to that role.
Right.
Absolutely. And practice those interviewing skills. Be prepared to talk about your projects, your technical knowledge, your problem-solving abilities.
Right.
And don't forget to ask thoughtful questions about the company and the role.
Oh, okay.
That shows you're genuinely interested and engaged.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a two-way street, right?
All right.
You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
Okay.
Make sure the company culture and the role are a good fit for your values and your goals.
Okay, we've covered so much ground today.
We have.
From salary expectations to practical tips for getting started in the field.
It's been a whirlwind tour of the world of programming.
It really has.
We've seen it's a dynamic and rewarding field
Yeah.
with incredible potential for growth and impact.
Mm.
But it also requires hard work, dedication, and a willingness to embrace lifelong learning.
So for our listener who's kind of embarking on this journey, remember, stay curious, be persistent, and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way.
And most importantly, have fun with it. Programming can be incredibly challenging,
Right.
but it can also be incredibly rewarding. Embrace the challenge, enjoy the process,
Yeah.
and who knows, maybe you'll build the next big thing.
You never know.
You never know.
As we've been talking about all these different career paths and locations, I keep thinking back to those salary figures from the survey.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the numbers, but it's so important to remember that a truly fulfilling career is about more than just a big paycheck.
I couldn't agree more. What I find truly fascinating is how personal values and career choices kind of intersect.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you can use your skills to make a positive impact
Right.
and contribute to something you truly care about.
It's not just about writing code for the sake of writing code, right?
Exactly.
It's about finding a problem that you're passionate about solving
Yeah.
and using your programming skills to create a solution.
Exactly. And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be a programmer. With the world becoming increasingly tech-driven, the possibilities are practically endless.
Yeah.
You could be working on projects that improve healthcare, combat climate change,
Right.
make education more accessible, or connect people in new and meaningful ways.
Our listener is thinking about getting into programming. They're curious about the earning potential, of course, but they also want to make a difference. What advice would you give them as they navigate this path?
I'd say start by exploring your passions. What are the problems that keep you up at night? What are the issues that you feel deeply connected to?
Right.
Once you've identified those passions, start thinking about how you can use your programming skills to address them.
That's such great advice. Maybe volunteer your time to a cause you care about,
Yeah.
or contribute to an open source project that aligns with your values.
Those are excellent ways to gain experience, build your network,
Right.
and make a difference while you're still learning.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Yeah,
The traditional tech career paths are evolving rapidly,
they are.
and there are new and exciting opportunities emerging all the time. Maybe you'll find yourself working for a social impact startup, or a research lab developing cutting-edge technologies, or even starting your own company to solve a problem that you're passionate about.
The key is to stay curious, be open to new experiences,
Yes.
and never stop learning. The world needs more programmers who are not just skilled coders, but also creative problem solvers and compassionate human beings.
That's a fantastic point. And it's something we've touched on throughout this whole deep dive.
Absolutely.
It's not just about technical skills. It's about combining those skills with your passion.
Yeah,
and your desire to make a positive impact on the world.
absolutely. And as you move forward on this journey, remember it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm,
There will be challenges, there will be setbacks.
right.
But if you stay focused on your goals
Yeah.
and continue to learn and grow, you can achieve incredible things.
Well said. So for our listener who's taking the plunge into the world of programming, we wish you all the best.
Absolutely.
Remember to stay curious, be persistent,
Mm.
and never lose sight of the impact you can make.
And as you navigate this exciting and ever-evolving field, always remember to ask yourself, what problems do you want to solve with your programming skills?
Mm.
And where in the world might you find the best fit for your ambitions and your desired lifestyle?
We hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought and inspiration as you embark on this exciting adventure. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.